Habits and routines frustrate and confuse me. On the one hand, I thrive on routine, and I know this to be true. When I feel like I'm drowning in tasks or riding the struggle bus, the culprit is usually my routine. If I'm off of it completely or I'm trying to add something new, things usually feel chaotic. When life feels breezy, I'm most definitely keeping on top of meaningful routines. In this video, I'm going to show you my habits and routines workbooks and try to adjust my routines a little bit, and you'll see how I figured out that I'm completely doing it wrong. So if you're interested in that, please stay tuned. First, I'll talk a little bit about the supplies I'm using here. These workbooks are from Cultivate What Matters. There's a habits book and a routines book. You can get them separately or in a bundle. I think they're both super helpful. The habits workbook frustrates me, not for the content, but because I'm just so bad with habits, I guess. I don't want to say bad, but it's something that confounds me all the time. I never know what is a habit and what is a task, and it's just something I constantly have to work on. So here I am highlighting everything in my color codes. So all of these habits that I wrote down while working through the habits workbook the first time, I went and categorized them into my goal categories. So each color corresponds to a different goal. This page in my power sheets, it was just a blank page that I used to list out my habits and what routines they could go in, because that's something that you learn by working through these workbooks, is that habits are the building blocks of routines. And a lot of my habits, you can see I'm adding and crossing things out and whatnot. These are things that I thought were habits, but those were routines. So I needed to break them down even more, and things that I thought were routines were actually rhythms. To be honest, I still need a lot of work in this, and I think that's important to note as well, because just doing the workbook one time isn't magic. You got to keep looking at it and figure it out, you have to go through, you have to live it and adjust it and change it and realize what you're doing. I think that these workbooks are super helpful. I've already done my prep work. I've done a month of my power sheets so far. I'm getting a better handle on what these things mean to me and what it looks like to live these habits and do these habits. And I think that's my biggest takeaway here, is that doing the workbooks doesn't just automatically make you know what you're doing. I have to go back and I have to reread things and I have to look at what I wrote down, and then I have to live it and I have to do the things and see exactly what's really going on in my real day-to-day life, and not just this fantasy life that I was thinking about as I was putting all these things down on paper. One of the quotes from the Habits workbook that really, really stuck out to me is this: "The number one reason we see people get stuck breaking down and living out their goals is because their goals don't actually matter to them." Wow, that has been the biggest eye-opener for me. Reflecting on this concept has been such an eye-opener. I've had trouble with habits in the past because I tracked things that didn't mean anything to me. Those things were beneficial, tracking your steps and your water intake and all of that stuff, but it didn't really tie back to a bigger goal in a tangible way. Of course, those things help with your health and whatnot. It didn't matter. It didn't have any value associated to it that was going to change anything for me. It was too arbitrary for me to assign any real value to it. So yeah, that quote kind of smacked me in the face. My goal with highlighting all of my habits in the color that goes with the goal categories was so that I could easily identify the different types of habits that I wanted to add, or maybe I was already doing, that were associated with each goal. I'm a list maker, and I grabbed a notebook here and I just decided that I could just make a list, like all of the habits that I wrote down, which categories do they go in, and then I thought that would help me with my power sheets. So I started with the first category, which was health. It was just the first category in my power sheets where I wrote out a goal action plan. And it turns out my health goal is my priority this year. It just is. And so I started there, I guess subconsciously, whenever I was doing my goal action plans in my Power Sheets prep work, just because it was on my mind a lot. The yellow category is my personal improvement, self-improvement, personal development category, and that one is another priority, mostly because those goals and habits associated with that category support my health goals a lot. So I feel like they go hand in hand. And so all the green highlights and all the yellow highlights were like the most important to me. I kind of got stuck a little bit and switched over to the routines workbook and found this page where I realized something big. I had written down that transitions really bother me. Like, whenever I'm working on something, I don't want to stop, and I'll keep going and keep going and keep going. And then that affects everything after it, obviously. And I think that's a big takeaway. Something that's going to help me in the future understand where I might be struggling with things is because I just can't change over into the next thing. So that was kind of a fun discovery that I wrote it down a long time ago and then forgot about it. And now I found it again, and I think it'll be super helpful going forward. Here I am going back to my habits list after looking through my routines workbook, and this is where I realized what I've been doing wrong. So my health habits are some of the most important to me. Well, the goal is the most important to me, and so those habits, since they make up the building blocks of the routines, and then the routines make sure that I'm working on that goal, I wasn't doing any of those habits in my most important routines, which I consider to be like my AM routine and my PM routine. I wasn't starting my day with the intention of working on any of those habits that support that goal. And so now I'm just kind of journaling about it, about why I was maybe struggling with my morning routine, because it wasn't supporting what was on my mind. I was more concerned with all these other little things that I thought a morning routine needed. Like, you watch those vloggers on YouTube talk about my morning routine, and they have like some 47 step skincare routine, and then like 3 hours later they're making their matcha and all this stuff. That's just not my life, and those things aren't important to me. And this was a huge eye-opener. I have spent so much time working on my prep work, working on these workbooks, journaling every day, and this is still something new that I've figured out in the meantime. And so it's just super important to go back and look at what you have decided you want, and look at what you're actually doing to see if you're doing things that support that thing you want. And it's been an eye-opener. I had started working on these again with the intention of readjusting my morning routine and my evening routine. I have this old wild card. You can kind of see it in the stack underneath everything. I wanted to fill that out and like make it permanent, make it official, write on the wild card in pen and highlighter and all that good stuff. I was going to tape that to my bathroom mirror to help keep me on track. And then I didn't even get past the habits section because I just had a breakthrough, and I think it's important here. I am now kind of going through and figuring out what kinds of things that I can add to my morning and my evening routines, what kind of habits that are actually going to support this health goal of mine. As I clean up here, I want to encourage you to consider the process of goal setting and self improvement a lifelong journey. I have often gotten hung up on this vision of if I just achieve this certain goal, my life will be perfect. Now that I've shifted to a contentment mindset, I feel so much more at peace with my journey, and I know you can too. If this video encouraged you in some way, please leave a like. And if you feel so inclined, please subscribe and join my journey of embracing our imperfections and just being us. Bye.